Behind every thesis grade, there's more drama than you might think. Examiners walk into your thesis defense with a grade already in mind, then spend most of the thesis defense confirming whether you actually understand your own work or if you are just bluffing your way through something ChatGPT wrote for you. And when examiners disagree, that quiet consensus meeting becomes a full negotiation, sometimes with one examiner literally fighting to up your grade. So today, I'm going to give you the real talk version of how examiners actually decide your thesis grade, not the polished, sanitized official version you can find in university handbooks, but what really happens behind the scenes and what the practical takeaways are for you so that you can succeed. Let's get into it. Factor number 1. The thesis is more important than the defense. Some students might think that their thesis grade is decided during or right after the thesis defense. It's not. Here's the blunt truth. In many programs, your thesis grade is mostly already decided before the defense, before you step into that room and say a single word. Prior to your defense, your examiners have already read your thesis, compared notes, discussed what questions they're going to ask, probably already decided on which examiner is going to ask which questions, and most likely they have already agreed on the grade, or at least a grade range. This happens not because examiners are lazy or unfair, but because the thesis is the actual academic product. The defense, in practice, is more of a quality check, a confirmation round, not the main event. A strong thesis carries you. A weak thesis does not magically become brilliant just because you suddenly turn yourself into a TED Talk speaker for 15 minutes. So what does this mean for you? Two very practical things. Number 1, put real effort into the thesis itself. The written work is what examiners weigh the most heavily. And number 2, treat the defense as an opportunity to share and elaborate on your work, not as a rescue mission. A nicely delivered defense can nudge your grade upward, but it won't rewrite your thesis. And that's the reality. Number 2, the substance of your answer matters more than the form. During the thesis defense, examiners know you might be nervous, you might be a bit stressed, that there are things you simply cannot remember on the spot off the top of your head. And they don't mind that. They expect you to stumble a little bit. What they're actually checking is, did you write this or did ChatGPT do this for you? Do you understand the choices you made and can you justify them? Do you know your limitations? Do you have that critical self-awareness? And can you stay calm when confronted with challenging questions? Experienced examiners can smell bluffing from a mile away. If you're trying to make something up on the spot, something you didn't do or didn't know or didn't believe in, they can see through that. Because, remember, they have already carefully read and discussed your thesis before the defense. So here, the practical takeaway is this. Authenticity beats pretension every time. Don't worry too much about, do I seem confident enough? Do I sound smooth enough? Instead, focus your energy on the substance of your answer. Number 3, the red thread coherence. This is something many students almost never think about, but examiners care deeply about. Does everything connect logically? Your topic, literature, research question, method, data analysis, findings and conclusions. Is there a clear logical red thread running through all these things? Is the thesis a coherent piece of work from start to finish, or is it 7 separate documents glued together the night before? In my observation, experienced examiners look for coherence, whereas inexperienced examiners, not all of them, but quite some, tend to focus on small details. So the practical takeaway here is that if I were a student defending my work, I would definitely highlight the coherence aspect. For most bachelor and master graduation work, you don't write the thesis to get published in top-tier peer-reviewed journals. You write the thesis as an exam. So if there are minor limitations, that's completely normal. But if you can clearly show that your entire research hangs together, that there is this clear, logical red thread, examiners usually value that far more. And you can accomplish this during the defense by restating a research question and highlighting how it is anchored in literature, or by relating your research question to your chosen research methodological approach, or by linking your data analysis back to your research question. If you can highlight the coherence effectively, examiners immediately think, this student actually understands their work. And that's half the battle won. Number 4, be professional and don't overdo the charisma thing. This is my take. Professionalism does not mean over-the-top charisma and Red Bull level energy. You don't need to sound like a televangelist who just drank 10 espressos and 5 Red Bulls. That kind of performance isn't impressive. It's stressful for everybody in the room. What serious examiners want to see is structured answers, an academic tone of voice that you can justify and motivate without getting too defensive, and staying calm even when challenged. And here's the thing, and again, this is just my view, nervous students actually tend to do better because they stick to the point. Overconfident students, they talk themselves into trouble. So the practical takeaway here is that I would say be professional, be serious, don't overdo the charisma thing, be cool, calm, collected, with a sprinkle of energy. Number 5, internal calibration and examiner discussions can get messy. This is the part students never see, the calibration meeting, the consensus discussion, the behind-the-scenes negotiation. Most of the time, these meetings are calm and fairly boring. 2 examiners flipping through the rubrics, comparing notes, adjusting a point here and there, and settling on a final grade. But sometimes there's friction, and occasionally a bit of drama. And honestly, that's what makes this process fascinating. Here's the honest truth. 2 examiners can read the same thesis and walk away with 2 very different impressions. After all, there are different people with different experiences, different expertise, and different priorities. One might care deeply about sampling, the other about theory. One might be obsessed with data analysis, the other is policing APA referencing like their life depends on it. Sometimes one examiner genuinely wants to pass you, while the other is convinced that your work is insufficient. But here's the reassuring part. Even when there's sharp disagreement, the purpose of these discussions is not to punish students, it's actually to protect the student. It prevents your grade from being determined by one examiner's personal opinion and rigid expectations. The negotiation is actually a quality control mechanism. In fact, come to think of it, if your examiners cannot agree on the grade, it means at least one of them is actually fighting to give you a higher grade. And in that sense, it's kind of nice. And if ultimately they are truly unable to reach consensus, your thesis will go to a 3rd examiner or a coordinator or a small research panel for grading. That safeguard exists precisely because disagreement happens, and because the system tries to avoid giving you a grade that only one examiner believes in. At the end of the day, the real objective is fairness. Universities are not perfect, but the graduation thesis is something that they take very seriously because it is tied to accreditation, external audits, and their legitimacy to award degrees. Students may feel that the system isn't 100% fair, and sometimes you're right, but I can tell you this. Universities are genuinely trying to make things fair for everyone, and that's not something you could say about many other organizations and systems. So what does this mean for you as a student? What is the practical takeaway here? Honestly, this is the part you cannot control, and your university has a system for it. Your job is to write a solid thesis and deliver a calm, structured defense. And their job to argue internally until they reach a grade that is fair and defensible. As I said, if there is heated disagreement, ironically, it often means at least one of those examiners is fighting for you. Academic drama, but in your favor. Number 6, the defense can adjust your grade, but within reason. As I indicated in point number 1, by the time you start your presentation, your examiners already have a pretty good idea what kind of grade you are likely to get. But the defense can nudge that grade up or down. Grades tend to go up when your answers are structured, calm, and to the point. You can justify your decisions without getting too defensive. You acknowledge limitations like a grown-up instead of pretending your thesis is absolutely perfect. You show that you genuinely understand what you did, why you did it, and what it all meant. On the other hand, grades could go down a little bit when your answers contradict what's actually written in your thesis. You accidentally reveal that you actually don't understand some aspect of your own work. You are evasive and cannot justify and motivate your decisions and choices. Or you repeatedly fall back on the famous line, because my supervisor told me to do it like that. That's not helpful. Adjustments are usually small. A defense rarely transforms a 6, a sufficient grade, into an 8, a distinction level grade. But it can move you within a band, for example, from a low satisfactory grade to a high satisfactory. So it could still be a meaningful shift. The practical takeaway here is this. For the defense, I am here to confirm and highlight the good parts of my work and soften the weaker parts within reason. It still pays to prep well for the thesis defense because it could still up your grade quite a bit, but usually within the same band. Number 7, institutional differences are substantial. Here's something many students don't realize. Every university handles thesis assessment differently. Some programs count the defense as 10% of the grade, some make it 20 or 30, some treat the defense as part of one holistic thesis grade with no separate weightings at all, and some programs don't even have a thesis defense. You submit your written work and that's the end of it. Some institutions allow a separate resit for the defense, others don't. Some involve external examiners, others use only internal faculty members. Some allow your supervisor to act as an examiner, others forbid it. Some use 2 examiners, some 3, and some run full committees. The assessment structures can vary substantially. But inside the thesis defense room, the underlying logic is surprisingly consistent everywhere. Does the thesis actually make sense? Does the student understand their own work? Are the research choices aligned from start to finish? And can the student justify those choices without collapsing under questioning? Different systems, but the same core questions. And this leads to 2 important implications. First, it means that the thesis defense preparation videos on this channel are almost universally relevant. No matter where you study, these core expectations don't change. So if you are preparing for your thesis defense, go watch these videos. Second, it means comparing your thesis grade with someone from another university or even another program within the same university is not going to be very meaningful because their grade was awarded under a completely different set of rules, procedures, and weightings. For this point, the practical takeaway here is this. Focus on the exact rules and regulations of your program. Don't worry about other programs and institutions. And master those universal core research quality standards: coherence, understanding, justification, and calm, structured, precise reasoning. When you master these, you will perform well anywhere. So what do you think about these 7 honest factors? Do you think they help you or scare you? Leave your thoughts and comments down below. I have a whole playlist of thesis defense videos, from how to handle tough examiners to common mistakes to answering difficult methodology questions. Check them out. Thanks for watching this Ranywayz random video. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.